I have to say, I have never met a Jeopardy champion before.
They're everywhere and you just don't know what we look like. We look like everyone else.
I'm Dr. Tina Kaiser, and as Leia likes to say, I'm the sciencey one.
And I'm Dr. Leah Sherman, and I'm the Cancer Insider.
And we're two naturopathic doctors who practice integrative cancer care.
But we're not your doctors.
This is for education, entertainment, and informational purposes only.
Do not apply any of this information without first speaking to your doctor.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast by the hosts and their guests are solely their own.
Welcome to the Cancer Pod. What does it look like to face cancer with both humor and wisdom? How do you turn a devastating diagnosis into a story that inspires others? Jeff Stewart was a Jeopardy champion, winning the college championship in 1994 and later placing as runner-up in the Tournament of Champions. He was also a husband, father of 7, an author, and a molecular biologist whose work ranged from uncovering causes of systemic autoimmune disease to developing an equation widely used in biotech. He also co-authored a paper on adapting BiPAP machines as ventilators during COVID. In 2022, Jeff was diagnosed with synchronous kidney and stomach cancers. He then wrote his first book, which he dedicated to his children, Living: Inspiration from a Father with Cancer, a memoir full of honesty, insight, and humor. Since we recorded this conversation back in June 2025, Jeff has passed away, but his words and perspective remain with us. He reached out to me this past spring to be a guest on the Cancer Pod because he was really excited about the release of his second book, a young adult fantasy novel called Angel Chloe and the Wall of Stone and Bone, which will be released next week on Halloween. I'm honored to share my conversation with him here on the Cancer Pod. And if you'd like to honor Jeff's legacy, I encourage you to check out both of his books. And now, my conversation with Jeff Stewart.
Thank you so much for having me, Leah. It's a pleasure.
It is such a pleasure meeting you. I could have gone on with all of your accomplishments because there were many more, and I tried to just kind of keep with the major points. I have to say, I have never met a Jeopardy champion before.
They're everywhere and you just don't know what we look like. We look like everyone else. Yeah, being on Jeopardy was a real boon to me because I had 2 kids and a car that was totaled. And so getting on was something that really meant a lot to us just financially to be able to survive what became my first year in grad school. But, I won the college tournaments now more than 30 years ago and got second in the Tournament of Champions. That was just such a blessing. It was exciting to see what it was like to be famous in a weird little way. Where you get recognized everywhere. And it was fun when that stopped too. It was it does feel a little uncomfortable, basically being on display everywhere in public, which probably wouldn't happen to most Jeopardy players today. But back then, before wide use of the internet as entertainment, it was the show, that and Wheel of Fortune. And if you played there for a while, and I was on 9 times, you get noticed and you get remembered.
Yeah. And how long did that truck last?
The truck, the vehicle. So we got the truck because it was more expensive, but then swapped down to a different vehicle that was more reasonable for us. And that lasted about, I think it was about 4 or 5 months until it got totaled. I won't say who did it. And then we had the Jeopardy insurance car after that.
Okay, then. I was hoping to hear some story about
no.
That just kind of took us through the years, but okay. That wasn't in your book.
That wasn't in my book. I'm trying to protect the guilty on that one. But it was the only new car I've ever owned. I'm cheap, so I prefer to buy cars cheaply. And that was the only new car we had. It was nice, though. It was nice to have one. Came at a good time.
Before we started recording, I was talking to you about my thoughts on the book, and I really, really enjoyed reading it. I was reading your inspirations because there are 100 inspirations kind of throughout the book, and these are all, the book was written for your children.
It was,
but the inspirations apply to all of us. I mean, they really do. And so I would come across one and I would just start reading it to my husband, and we would just look at each other like, like there was so much in there that I think that everyone could appreciate and find useful in their life.
I did think that if I were going to die, which is what it seemed like at least a good possibility at the time, I knew I wouldn't be there in that case to give my kids the life advice I wanted them to know at times when they were ready to hear it. It wouldn't be useful to talk about things in marriage to my, at the time, 12-year-old, our youngest, but it would be helpful at a later date. And so I try to put those things down. And that for me was the most important, the core of what I wanted to do for my family. But you're right, Leah, it's something that is obviously more universal. If I tell you something if I can put something so clearly and have it stick in your mind like it does in mine, then it helps in those cases where you have it. It becomes the mental tool or the shortcut you use to solve what otherwise is a difficult problem. Something like, there are no heroes without horrors. That's something that makes times that are tough, times that are quite scary or frightening, puts it in context. Or when there's no hope, you're the hope. That helps us, I think, in ways. Mr. Rogers did some of the same things, a hero of mine, where he would say, look for the helpers and something when times are hard. These are ways that help us, kind of thoughts, sayings, proverbs, or inspirations that will inspire us and keep us on a road we'd like to keep on in hard times. So that is exactly what I wanted to have for my children. It was the core of what I wanted to write in a book. And only later did I see that there was more I potentially would put in there and not just be a set of 100 sayings, aphorisms, or proverbs, life lessons for them, but more. And the reason, Leah, that it became more is because when I was describing on Facebook and other social media sites what was going on with me in cancer, I'm going to talk about the same way that I would it's molecular biology. It's my field. It's the pharmaceutical business model, which is also my field. It's my profession, and understanding pharmaceutical design and transfer and tech transfer and understanding what is done in clinical trials. That's my job. That's been my job for quite a while, decades. And so that part isn't that difficult for me. It's not quite the same scary mass of uncertainty that it is for most of us when we hear the diagnosis of you have cancer. It's just another puzzle to solve. And it's a little bit like the Jeopardy music playing. I mean, that can be really stressful for someone trying to answer Final Jeopardy. Or if you've been on a lot of times, it's just telling you how long you have to figure it out. And that's something that for me, kind of writing out these stories, telling what had happened to me in a pretty objective way, how I think through these things in my own cancer journey, people told me it helped them. It helped them understand their parents when they died and didn't know what to say, or their grandparents, or even spouses, or their own cancer. It helped put the words in people's mouths. They told me that they didn't know how to put. And so I'm thankful I had that too. And that is the other, a large chunk of the book as to just what happened to me.
I mean, even for myself, I was working in a cancer center when I was diagnosed and had been working with cancer patients. And so I knew the steps. I had a certain confidence that I think most people don't have, because I knew the medications, I knew the side effects, I knew a lot. But then there was a certain part, the surgery part, where I didn't know, because I wouldn't see patients until weeks after their surgery when they would come back to see the med-onc. And so there was a little bit of a mystery. And what I found in your book is you detail your steps from diagnosis through your treatments, and you're taking some of that mystery out of it. And I think that takes some of the fear out of it as well, by knowing what you're going to be facing. And I really appreciated that part of your book where you just broke down the different parts of your treatment and even the diagnosis steps, and talking about the different, genetic tests and all of that. It's really helpful.
It's I'm sure you experience this too. It's just such a whirlwind of not just terms that we're unfamiliar with unless we work deeply in the field. And even then we may not know, but it's hard to tell what really matters. A very simple one. This is one I screwed up pretty badly. I was having some speech issues. So I got a cranial CAT scan. And I was sitting at Applebee's or something like that with my wife when I got the note that my chart was available. I opened it up and looked at the first line, which was indication. Indication line says metastatic brain cancer. Not good. So I'm like, Oh, Jen, I'm so sorry. But we'll just wait 30 seconds. I scrolled down. The indication line does not mean this is the indication of the drug you're looking for. Not on a CT scan, not in a PET scan. It tells you what they're worried about,
Right.
not what you have. I didn't know that. It's a word in English. I know very well what indication means, but I was wrong. But by the very end, it says impression, and impression is the answer. Indication, the question, impression is the answer. I didn't know those things, and I got myself scared for about 30 seconds before I found out, oh no, I have no brain metastases at all. I didn't see anything.
Right. It was just the question that they were asking, like, so it could get covered by insurance, basically.
Correct.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you found, what I'm gathering is you found your background as a molecular biologist to be helpful. Did you ever find it to be a disadvantage?
Probably that one that I suggested there was a disadvantage because I assumed I knew what the words meant. And it's not a really hard word, but it's there. Other times that I find it to be a disadvantage, I'm having trouble thinking of places where I find it to be a disadvantage. I've become more aware of my ignorance over the years. So I try to keep an open mind on certain things, even though it seems very much one way to me, looking at the data. I know that I can get things wrong. It took a while, Leah, to figure out that I could feel that I was completely right and I was, in fact, completely wrong. I know that sounds probably odd for someone to say, because we're wrong about so many things in life, but that is a trap one gets into when you're trained in something. You think you know it, and sometimes you don't.
There was a chapter where you talked about fighting cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't like that term, as many don't, being a cancer fighter, but you saw yourself more as the battlefield.
Yeah. So I didn't like the fight the cancer wording or phraseology, because what's the implication there? If I'm strong, I'm going to win. And if I'm weak, I'm going to lose. Or if I didn't try hard enough. That doesn't feel right to me. That doesn't feel right to me at all. I think that is another part of my training, Leah, that does help, is to say, like, this is out of my control. I know which things are under my control, and it isn't living or dying in this. It's like following directions, and that I can do. But beating the cancer, I mean, it's me. It's part of me. It just wants to live. It's trying to win. It's just trying to survive. Of course, it's hard to kill. That's just part of how it is.
But the term, like, or the thought of being the battlefield, I think applies in so many ways, including like the collateral damage that happens from all of the treatments that you receive. It's like, it's not just the cancer, being targeted, it's other cells. But yeah, that was the first time I'd ever heard somebody refer to that. And now it's kind of, I think I'm going to adopt that term.
Kind of sticks. It's like World War I, I mean, you have mustard gas and those kinds of,
exactly.
I mean, you're getting chemoed, and there are some that are derived from the same sorts of things, as poison gas. And you can just imagine the trenches that are everywhere, and the mud and the craters. And that's me. I mean, I am missing the use of 2 of my organs. I'm running out of organs that I can do without.
Well, as I mentioned, you talk about your experience from the diagnosis through the treatment, but you talk about the sort of experimental treatments and alternative treatments. And there was something that you had pointed out about how people were suggesting alternative treatments, and they probably still are.
Oh, of course.
And that was something that I experienced as well. And I was like, don't you know what I do? Like, but what would you tell somebody who was told about an alternative treatment? And there's certain alternative treatments that are really popular at certain stages in history. And right now it's like ivermectin, right? Ivermectin is going to cure everything. It was supposed to cure COVID, and it cures all cancers, according to some people. Like, what would you tell somebody who had no background at all in molecular biology or chemistry or medicine? Like, how would you talk to someone about approaching something like that?
So the first thing that I would say is that it's something just to be aware of. You, as a cancer patient, you experienced it, and I certainly still experience it, will be inundated by people who are well-meaning and wrong, but well-meaning. Sometimes are friends and family. At worst, they're going to send you something that is like some new breakthrough in Australia where they've treated 5 mice, something like that. You're going to get that. And they're going to say, well, isn't this exciting? It's not exciting, not for us, because it's far too far in the future if anything did come of it. So that's the first thing, is just expect people to be there. And on the other extreme will be people who are just trying to take money from cancer patients in a way that ruins them financially and leaves them more likely to die. And that's the second thing I would want to just express, is that this has been tested. They took cancer patients, and some said, I will not take chemotherapy or do what my oncologist said. I'm only going to do alternative therapy. And the other ones said, no, I will go on and do whatever my doctor says. Those two groups. In some cancers, those two groups do about the same. In like prostate cancer, about the same. But that's not most cancers. Most cancers, if you just take a random person that has cancer and they just go the alternative therapy route, 1/4 of them will live within about 4 to 5 years. 1/4 of them will still be alive. So most of them will die, but there will always be people that essentially do something like that. Just doesn't have any data behind it. And they will still live. But if you do what your oncologist says, on average, your chance of dying is not 75%, but only 50%. Your chance of living goes from 25% to 50%. Half of people in 4 to 5 years after doing what the doctor says will end up surviving at least that long. And that difference, 1 out of 4 people surviving to 1 out of 2 people surviving, is huge. That's a bigger effect than basically any single cancer drug against other cancer drugs you would ever see. Is the single best thing you can do when given this information on ivermectin, as you mentioned, or hydroxyquinolone, or Rick Simpson oil, or whatever, is that there's just no data there. And by the way, your chance of living doubles if you just ignore those and go with what your oncologist said. It's not a guarantee. There will be people who do exactly what their oncologist said and die. At least half of them will. I probably will, to be honest. But that's a better chance than doing the opposite. So those are the major things I say to them. It's hard because a lot of times there will be someone that they trust or love that did have an experience of being one of the 1 in 4 who did survive. And so they attribute it then to whatever they took. And you just can't tell from one person. You can't tell. You have to look at a large number of people. We're not smart enough to tell things from one person at a time, any more than we'd be smart enough to tell the best batter in the world from the worst batter in the world from one pitch. We just don't know.
When patients would talk to me about these alternative treatments that their friend, family member, somebody talked to them about, it's not always the same cancer either. And so having to explain that cancer isn't just one thing. And so one thing isn't going to cure all cancers, because those alternative treatments tend to be for, it covers everything across the spectrum. The other thing is it's kind of similar with the experimental treatments, where somebody said, oh, I have a relative who received this experimental treatment and it worked for them. It's like, well, you had a completely different cancer.
Yeah.
And so, not quite getting that cancer is many, many different things.
It's many, many different things, but it's also extremely hard to kill. It just is. As I said, I could work in the pharmaceutical industry. I have advised companies buying and selling cancer companies to each other. The work that goes into them is incredible. Just think of the thing that is so amazing that they've tried it in every mouse. They've tried it in dogs. It all seems to be working perfectly well. It works great in the lab. And then somebody's willing to put up tens of millions to hundreds of millions or even $1 billion to try it in people. And of all those incredible A+++ drugs, only 7% of them ever make it to the market. Cancer is hard to treat. It's just very, very, very difficult. Most things that look great don't work. Almost all of them don't. More than 9 out of 10 just don't work when you actually test them in actual people with actual cancers. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, those are the best of the best. those are the smartest people in the world trying to solve the biggest trouble in the world. I mean, how likely is it that soursop tea, that they missed that one? And the answer is not at all likely. It just isn't.
And that was something that you explain in the book as well, how you talk about, how difficult it is to go from, from in vitro to mouse to human. Like that whole process was really well explained in the book. And I think that is something that people just don't think about, because you see a study and it says that a certain substance has been shown to kill cancer cells.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of things kill cancer cells.
Blowtorch kills cancer cells. Try it.
One of my favorite comics or little like cartoon memes things is somebody like a stick figure standing with a gun over a petri dish. like a lot of things can kill cells. There is an NPR article that you wrote that also talked about what we just discussed.
Yeah. If you have cancer and you take nothing away from this, if you don't get Living Inspiration from a Father of Cancer by Jeff Stewart, fine. But there is one thing, if you looked it up today, right now, you will get the chapter of the book for free from, if you type in my name, Jeff Stewart, Jeff Stewart, Stewart, and the word cancer and NPR, you will find one of the chapters. And it is that chapter that will materially help you. It will materially help you know what to do when you are hit on all sides by people that sound very nice, that promise cures, and are really just not right. This will help. So just do that. It's one chapter out of the book, and it explains exactly this thing. It's actually the most technical chapter out of the book. Most of the book is not that technical, but this is, because it's important to do so. It's important to get these things right, and it's important to know that these things have been tested. It's not just a guess. It's not just hope. It's data. People figured it out. They did the hard work so that we didn't have to do the hard work, so that we didn't have to guess as though we were walking into some old-timey dentist, in the Wild West, who's got like a barbershop dental and will also cut off your leg. I mean, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do snake oil. We know the answer, and this helps.
And I'll put a link to that article as well in our show notes. The other chapter that I wanted to talk about is All Possible Worlds. And you start off by talking about, I don't remember how you said it, about the other dimensions or something about that. There's multiple dimensions happening. Is that how you said it? But I completely resonated with that. When I read that, I was like, oh, somebody else believes that too. Or, so that part I thought was, that was very personal to me. And then you get very personal.
Yeah.
Where you talk about your regrets.
Yeah.
And it's so vulnerable because you have a certain tone throughout the whole book. And then all of a sudden you talk about things that you do regret.
Yeah.
I found it very powerful. I found it very, it's beyond honest. Because there are so many things that, like, I was reading and I was like, I start springing things up in my life where I'm like, I don't know if I could ever admit that in a book. What propelled you to expose yourself like that and be so vulnerable?
I haven't really thought through that, to be honest. Just thinking through all the things that I did regret. I do hope I've learned from this life and do better in whatever future I have, if there is a future. So that's part of it. This is part of the growing up, is to see those things I did wrong. But it also, I think, puts in perspective some of the things that I did right. It makes it kind of easy in a way, Leah, to think, why is this happening to me? I have 7 kids. I only found out because I was trying to donate my kidney that I had cancer in the first place. Why is this happening to me? I very likely would be dead already if it had not been for getting that CT scan about whatever it was 3 years ago now, this month. Why me? Well, the answer isn't that. It's more, why not me? Other people have much, much, much harder lives. My life has been blessed. Yeah, to put in some of the things that are deep regrets, I think also, at least for my kids, will help them see me not as a complete marble statue on a pedestal or something like that. Hopefully, then they can put their own shortcomings and errors in a way that doesn't make them feel bad. Part of what I and this is only tangentially related, but part of what I really hope for my kids is that none of them think, if I had just prayed more, Dad would be alive. That I do not want them to have. So I do try to kind of put, here are the good and here are the bad things. And if you really think of me as a saint and not a human, it's probably harder. And so those are all kind of wrapped up in it a little bit, Leah.
You mentioned blessing, and that in the book, you say that you see cancer as a blessing.
Yeah.
And I have heard that from patients. And I think from reading the book, I can understand you saying that. But can you explain more about
Sure.
that? Because for some of us,
it's weird. Yeah.
But there are people who truly believe that. And I would love to talk to you about.
Sure. And I can't say I always think that, but let me just give me a second. I'll see if I can find exactly where it is. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. This cancer diagnosis has been a blessing. I'm so glad I got the diagnosis. The diagnosis may have saved my life. The greater blessing is if I die. If I die, the diagnosis gave me time. The diagnosis gave me the will to act. I've been blessed with time to prepare my family, to prepare myself. I've blessed with the time and will to write this. That's not where the blessings end. The greatest blessing is not just my early diagnosis. The greatest blessing has been the cancer itself. I'm glad I got cancer, all things considered. I have been gifted the opportunity to share my cancer experience with others. They're reaching out. What a blessing it is to hold another's horrors for them. Quote, I have told this to nobody but my priest and my wife. What a blessing it is to hear, this helped me understand what my mother went through. What a blessing it is to calm the fear of the unknown. What a blessing it is to sit with someone going through the worst thing in their life. Cancer is frightening, confusing, overwhelming. Explaining my cancer gives new purpose for this time in this life of mine. Explaining my cancer breathes fresh meaning into the learnings and failures of my life. I couldn't have written this without cancer, so thank you, cancer, for being there. I hope I live to do more, but if the price I pay to do some good is your price is cheap.
I don't even know what to say after that. Just really, really powerful. Like, this is the writing throughout the book. All of it is this powerful. And like I said, it's very moving, and you're so open. And I know that you are that way, I'm assuming, because this is to your children.
It is.
But the universal appeal of it, I think, is it's there.
I tried, Leah. I tried so hard to write the best thing I possibly could in case it was the last thing I ever wrote. So that's what I did.
Through social media, you have been helping other people understand their cancer or process what they're going through. What would the most important advice be that you would give somebody who was newly diagnosed with cancer?
If you can find a group that is a good group, that's the best. Usually for my own stomach cancer, the Hope for Stomach Cancer group is excellent. Fantastic. There are also groups that will be completely predatory and essentially started by people that will have spam bots that will constantly try to send you to someone who doesn't have any idea, but will take your money. So finding the right group is crucial. I would honestly ask your oncologist just to recommend a group or two. You find the right ones and you will get the support that you might need. And honestly, AI might end up being a real support for a lot of these things too. At this point, you can take whatever result you have, cut and paste it into AI and have it summarize it in English for you. And so those kind of tools will also be helpful. Finding the right people, you'll be in good hands. Find the wrong people and they will take your money.
So you're saying just find the right support group, and they're typically cancer specific.
They are cancer specific. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
And, not associated with a company, but associated with, a nonprofit organization.
Sure.
And there's a pretty easy test right at the beginning. If the Facebook group will let anyone in without even passing simple, like, I promise to follow the rules sorts of things, then you're going to be in one that's a scam place because scammers can get in them.
Yeah. And from what I've heard, there are people who start discussing things like alternative treatments and don't listen to your oncologist. And,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of what you're talking about.
Thank you, Dr. Herbalist. You just blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing written by people whose names don't match your pictures. And they say the same thing or one of a script. It's just spam bots everywhere.
What are your thoughts on AI and medicine?
So when I was in when I was in my molecular biology grad school, like one of the holy grails of something you could do would be to understand a protein by crystallizing it and then sending x-rays through it so you could suss out exactly how the thing looked. Once you knew how the thing looked, then you'd know something about the structure and maybe how it works. You could figure out those things. But that was a dark art. Getting a protein to crystallize, not easy. And so it's like, wow, do this, take you 6 or 7 years to get it done, Recently, AI has solved basically every structure problem. When people knew what the crystals were and they knew what the structure is, AI figured them out fast. So many of them. I think it won the Nobel Prize in the last year or two for that exact thing. And it's just replaced the lives of grad students and allowed us to go on to things that are more interesting or different problems at least. So that's just a headline of how strong is AI in the pharmaceutical industry. Extremely strong, very, very, very strong, very powerful. It will be pretty clear pretty quickly that there will be those who crush with the AIs, like they use them and they're able to use them to do good, or those that are crushed by them by somebody else who does it. And there's maybe no middle ground. You still have to be smart. You still have to figure out how to use them. And they do some things that are unusual. You wouldn't get hallucinations from say an associate consultant just making stuff up completely. That would be pretty rare. But on the whole, it's a huge boon, and it's just a question of how people can make the use cases right. The world will change in pharmaceuticals. I'm not sure the extent to it, but it will change.
So are there people going back and looking at what the AI is outputting to check for things like hallucinations? I mean, I'm assuming that there are sort of grad students acting as proofreaders to make sure that the information that came out.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you would do that. I'm not saying from any particular personal knowledge. I haven't worked at the bench for 30 years. But the work that I do, I use AI sometimes. And I use it for programming as much as anything else. Things that I would have hired an associate consultant to do from like over in our European consultant team. I could just tell the AI what I want and it makes perfect code, and I can cut and paste it and it works great. So like that's just a little thing, but and that's not restricted to pharmaceuticals, but the rest of it, you have to find out the right case and the right use case and figure it out. Solving protein structures was absolutely the right use case and really daring and challenging and triumph of a case for them to have done it. They took on a very hard problem and they knocked it out of the park. Amazing work.
You are working on, or you completed another book?
Oh yeah, it's done. It's in final proofreader stage right now.
Okay, and it's written by you, not by AI.
It's written by me, not by AI. Correct. Okay. Yeah. And this has nothing to do about cancer, molecular biology, or Jeopardy. None of those things. It's the book. It's a book I would have loved reading when I grew up. And yes, I write it for my kids. So they have it, but it is. It's called The Angel Chloe and the Wall of Stone and Bone. It's just a YA novel with angels and demons, and it's fun and people solving hard problems. I love it. I hope I live long enough to write two sequels to it, make it a trilogy. That seems about right. But I love the characters. It's been something I've always wanted to do, but never really had the time or the purpose to do it. And when my health started going south, well, I had the time, and I definitely had the goad to do more.
So are there lessons and inspirations woven into this book as well?
Not as such. I mean, there are in there, like the lead character, Chloe, is a foster child and is pretty traumatized and not always a good person. But she learns to be a good person over, through her trials, and then sees some of the things that have been really hard things for her. You see how they've ended up being some of her strengths. But I mean, that just comes out of the writing. It's not something I'm really imposing on it. You see, it's funny writing, like when you write like a character and you've got it to be more or less, you've got the picture of what the character is in mind. Start a chapter, you have no idea how they're going to get out of the problem. They get out of the problem and it reveals more about their character. It's like acting, I guess. It's a different experience, and I do love writing. I love writing so much. So I'm glad I got to be able to do this one. Hopefully I can write a couple more.
Well, thank you very much for all of your wisdom. I really have enjoyed talking with you, both off and on camera. And I wish you the best, especially with the release of your new book, which is going to be Halloween.
Halloween, and it'll be half price for one day on Halloween. Half price Halloween. So if you are going to get the book, The Angel Chloe and The Wall of Stone and Bone, do it on Halloween.
And it's young adult.
Young
fiction.
Adult. It fits into the category of young adult fantasy or young adult paranormal, angels and demons sort of thing. So if you have somebody who likes angels, they kind of interested in kind of angel demon sort of thing, or they just like to see a lot of cool fights with demons, this is the book for you. It is a page turner. They'll love it.
Okay, great. Will there be a link that I can put up as well for that in the show notes, or?
I can put a link up to the Kickstarter, but that's only for a month for to hire the audiobook talent. It's not a good one for me to do as an audiobook, but it is for actually a lady whose husband just died of stomach cancer about 6 weeks ago, I believe. So she's the narrator of the book. It's to pay her. That's all I have right now. We don't have a pre-order link set up. We certainly don't have the book online yet. So I can't yet, but I can do it in a future date. But if you just look up The Angel Chloe and The Wall of Stone and Bone anywhere close to Halloween of 2025, you will find it.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. December 6th, 2022. You're going to fight that cancer. No, I'm really not. I get unreasonably irritated when I hear that I'm going to fight that cancer. What's my weapon? Harsh language? What good would fighting, whatever that means, do? I'm not going to fight cancer. I'm not going to beat cancer. I'm not going to lose my battle with cancer either. I don't even think my good attitude or bad attitude is going to do much, at least so far as fighting cancer goes. The actual cancer fight looks like this. Oxaliplatin, a chemotherapy, is spot welding my DNA, so the replicating DNA strands snarl in a tangled mess, and poison whatever DNA manages to copy itself despite the oxaliplatin welding. My immune system is hunting down stray cancer cells that survive the war chemo is waging on my DNA. In 3 months, chest radiation will blow double-stranded breaks in my DNA, mortal molecular wounds. If the actual fighters kill every last cancer cell, then I live. If even one cancer cell lives, I die. I'm not the fighter. I'm the battlefield.